Hi, it's Megan. I had done a video review of the Gucci eyeshadow quad in Aquamarine Dream, which is this right here, and someone asked me to do a tutorial on it, so I'm doing the tutorial now. I watched the video again before doing this to make sure I got everything right, and I complained a lot about this particular quad because of how cool toned it was. So as I was thinking, like conceptualizing how to focus on the video, I was thinking, yeah, that is the problem sometimes with blues. Like, how do you make them work? There's so much color, and that was one of the complaints I had in this. There was so much shimmer and so much color. How do you make it work? And actually looking at the video, it was really, really gorgeous. So obviously it does work. It's just a question of balancing it out. So, and by the way, this is Mo. He is going to be part of the video too because he's insisting that he's not leaving. So what I've already done so far is I put on a base under my foundation base. I have the Shara, which is something I got in a Mimi box that I was just trying out. I like doing that under foundation. It may or may not make my skin look better or make it glow or whatever, but I think it does, so I did it. I also have a Kat Von D foundation on, and I vary the foundations I use in the videos, but this was just the one that was closest. And then I've also got the concealer on. I didn't powder my face right now. It just depends on my mood. I just decided not to. But I do most of the time, not always. What I did decide I'm going to do, and I'm going to get right into it in a second, I did decide I'm going to do both eyes, and it's only, when I usually do tutorials, I'll usually have one eye done, just because it can be laborious going through the same thing twice. But watching this, I did a lot of blending and stuff, and I feel like the video is going to be better for me doing both eyes, but if you don't agree, I apologize for it in advance. It's going to be a little slow at times. So first, I'm going to start out with just some basics. Usually I do eyes first, but just so you can see, well, no, yeah, I think that makes sense. Just so you can see kind of how I conceptualize the look going into it, I'm going to do the kind of a little bit of shading on my face, blush and all that. So when you're looking at colors like this, aquamarines, blues, I would even go so far as to say greens and purples, the first decision is always how do you make the whole look work on your face? And part of it is the undertones of your skin. I'm fairly neutral, so I can play around with that a little bit if I'm careful. So when I do blues, I will typically do peaches on my lips and on my cheeks, but sometimes I might do pinks. If you have a cooler skin tone, you probably want to do pinks, although if you're kind of neutral, you can do the peaches. And the reason why is, for me, the blues are already a little cool. I need a warmer orange on the cheek and on the lips to balance out that coolness, whereas if I go with warmer shades, I have more flexibility of adding pinks or whatever else. The only exception to that is purples, where I personally don't like purples and peaches that much on me. It can work sometimes. I really like mixing gold with purples, and this is also opposite of the color wheel. Blue is opposite of orange, so it tends to really highlight and complement the blue eyes, and purple and yellow are opposite, so gold tends to really complement the purple, and it also warms it up a little bit, which helps me. But if you have really cool skin tones, using an aquamarine palette like this, you would probably look amazingly stunning if you did pinker blush and lip. The one thing I have not found, and if anyone has one, I would love to hear it. The lip I'm going to show you is a very, I don't want to say nude, but it's got more of a peach undertone. I have yet to find an amazing nude lipstick that has a pink undertone, so if anyone has one. So this right here is the Archie MAC Cream Soda blush, and this is a matte peach, or almost matte. It may have a little satin in it, but it's mostly matte. And I'm just going to dab a little on. I like a precise brush like this with a lighter blush, lighter, more blendable brush, but I also sometimes use a brush like this. And so you can see a little bit of peach is adding some warmth to my skin. And then I am going to do bronzer. Honestly, the bronzer I'm a lot more aggressive with when I'm doing a video than when I'm like dealing in real life. I use a matte bronzer to kind of contour the face just a little bit. And it makes a little bit of a difference in like real life, day to day. But for some reason on camera, it just makes a huge difference. I think just the way the shading, the light hits. So I just basically do one of these little 3 things and try to keep my hair out of it. and then take it down in the chin. And the reason for this is I put sunscreen on my face and my neck, but very rarely do I put it here or just on a day-to-day basis. And so I'm trying to basically even out the tone from my neck, which is a lot whiter than my chest, and then also add a little bit of contour into my face. And how much I want to add will determine how much of the bronzer I'll use. If I had a much cooler skin tone, I wouldn't use bronzer to contour. I would use a contour powder, which on me can sometimes look a little taupey, ashy, gray, not so flattering. I get away with the bronzer, and then I blend most of it away so that it's just a really subtle effect. I don't like, I mean, it's really cool to see it in pictures and everything, but I don't like in real life that heavy look of too much shading. Just, it looks fake. And then this lipstick is the one I use for the video, and it's one that I use for tons of videos where I do smoky or colorful eyes and the peach cheeks. It's Dose of Colors Angelic Lipstick, and this has kind of almost that milky look to it, that white. And I like the contrast. This has just a tiny bit of color, but it's nude enough that it doesn't detract or like overplay the color in my face. So this is, and it's also more of a matte. So I've got basically a matte blush with maybe just a tiny satin thing going on. I've got a matte bronzer, I've got a matte lip, and I've got a little tiny bit of subtle orange. Some other really good neutral lip colors. I really like the Urban Decay Naked 2, was it Revolution lipstick? That one is probably the most neutral one that I've got that's light that I can wear, and that one's really pretty with blues. I also really like the Gucci Ethereal, and I like the Charlotte Tilbury Naked Kate. I was trying to think what other ones, but like I said before, I'm still looking for a really beautiful nude with just a slight pink to it, more than what I have. So this palette here, and this is just one set of blues. The kind of the look that I'm doing here, you can do with pretty much any blues. Just this is the palette I'm using. So the first thing I'm gonna do, this is something I do different than a lot of people. I actually start out with the black eyeliner. A lot of people do that after they're done with the smoky eye look or whatever. I prefer to have this, I'm actually gonna do it with this mirror. I prefer to have this at the beginning. Now if I had a more purple undertoned blue that I was playing around with, I might not use black, I might use like a navy, but I would use a dark neutral, maybe a blackened navy with a lot of blues, and even sometimes with purples, especially if there's any kind of pink with the purples, just because I feel like adding a black, a brown, you can do browns with greens, gives the effect of not just so much color in your face. It's a little bit, I don't want to say softer, but it's a little bit more of a muted, workable effect. So this is my favorite pencil, and it's actually included in the current Lancome holiday set. They do it every year. This is the Kohl, Le Crayon Kohl in Ebony is I think the color. I have like this some weird little something on my eyelashes there. I wonder what that is. Oh, I'll just work around it. And then I'm really careful about taking that all the way in. And I like the Kohl. I also like the Urban Decay Perversion, because these are softer pencils and they tend to bleed onto the lower lash line. And that gives a softer look than I actually just directly put it on the lower lash line, which on me works better. So I start with doing this. Then you're gonna see my crazy blending. This is one of my favorite brushes. This is a harder eyeshadow brush that has a pointy edge. I have no idea where I got it. Who makes it? I think it's Stila. God. Me in my eye. So I'm going to take this white shade, and I will almost always use a white shade with blue With purple, I'll sometimes use gold. I guess with blue, sometimes I'll use gold too, but most of the time I'm looking for a cooler look, so usually I'm using a white right up here, because blues are a cool undertone color most of the time. So I don't really worry about where I put it, because it's going to get covered up anyway. If the next shade wasn't a shimmery one like this, then I would worry a little bit more, because then I would want to keep the matte. But I'll just put that pretty much everywhere and in the inner part of the eye. It lightens up the next shade that goes on if I put it in the inner part of the eye, which I like that gradation. I don't have an eyeshadow primer on for this color, and in fact, a lot of times when I do darker colors like this, they're already bright enough. I have dry skin. If I put an eyeshadow primer on, it's just going to soak too much color and it gets harder to blend it. So unless, I would rather go with a better quality blue shade and skip the eyeshadow primer than do it differently. So then I'm taking this Aquamarine shade and I'm putting it all on the lid, and I could use a softer brush, but if I use a softer brush, especially if it's a bigger one, it's not going to have the same kind of precise application. And with a color like this, I would rather be very precise in where I put it and also very controlled in how much I put on. So I'll build it up a little bit in the middle part of the eye. This is going to go first on the lid itself. And then I'm going to go into the crease, but first I'm just going to do the lid. And so by putting it on with a harder brush, less goes on at a given time, but covering like less of a space, but more color. And so then I have a little bit more control. So now I'm going to work it into the crease. And this is basically following the eyeball, if that makes sense. I'm like outlining it, going right above it. And I just hate not being able to apply darker shades incredibly precisely. I have a couple other brushes. I'll show you in a minute. I have these tiny little brushes that are super precise. So like I love this little short eyeshadow brush. I have this little tiny one right here, which I'm going to play with next. I just have these tiny little brushes. So now I'm going to take my tiny little brush and I'm going to even it out even more. And you can see this one applies a lot more color. So then I'm going to have to blend it in a minute. But we're going to play with this tiny little brush. So it's just a tiny little eyeshadow brush. And then I like to blend with my fingers around the edges. It's a personal thing. I think the finger just kind of softens it more. We're going to go back with the white in a minute, but I want to take this. And now I'm going to take this blue again and put a little line almost to like the end of where my eyelashes end. And then this is like my little ADD thing. I build up the outer part of the eye and then make sure that this line meets with real color. And that's kind of hard to do sometimes. It's hard to build up color for me there. Now this is way too dark, but that's going to get blended out. You can see there's some bleeding going on with my black. Do it again, take the blue all the way. Not all the way to the end of the eye, all the way to almost where the eyelashes end. And then I'm going to build up this outer corner. This is where you're going to see how laborious some of what I do can be. Okay, now blend a little bit more with a different finger so that it's not already colored. I think it needs to be a little darker. Now we're going to go back to the first brush, build some more white in here, soften with a finger so that we get a softer line between the blue and the white. And I really love this brush. I actually use this brush almost every time I do my eyes, and I wash it every time. Now I'm going to take a thicker brush and I'm going to thicken the line, especially in the outer part of the eye. And so I'm not using a lot of liner brushes. I'm actually using a lot of eyeshadow brushes because I like softer, thicker lines. I don't like something super harsh. So now, and now smudge it a little bit. Now, you can also, if you like a a little bit more black. You can also put it on the lower waterline. I might at the end probably do that. Now what I did, to find the right brush, is I took a very, very, very fine eyeliner brush, like this. This one's slanted. I just grabbed the wrong one. The one I actually used in the video before was not slanted. This one I use a lot less, but it's the same thing. Now I'm using Makeup Forever, the M100 shade of their eyeshadows, the newer formula, which is a matte black. This is going to be very laborious. And I am lining by dotting as close to the lashes and then blending as I can. And that's just because I can only take a little black liner, and it's got to go all the way down almost to meet what's lining the upper waterline. But this is called tight lining or something, I don't know. I can never quite figure out what tight lining is. I think this might be it. So it's just dotted on. And it really doesn't matter whether it's a slanted brush, or it just matters that it's a very tiny, tiny brush. And anytime I do black on the upper eye, then I always put it in the lower corner. Now you could do this with a wet brush to get a slightly more defined line, but I'm not trying for that look. Okay, so I'm putting that in the... And now I'm taking this, they call it a smoky eye brush, I'm just going to soften a little bit. I actually have a brush that's specifically for softening eyeliner. I prefer this one. Next comes our next shade, this dark one right here. So this one I'm going to work into the black and the other shadow about halfway, almost halfway, not quite halfway. And then smudge it a little bit. And then take the same, I'm probably the only person in the world who uses this shape of a brush in the crease line, but I really like to dot it on and then blend it. And I've had some people say on my videos, using your finger is old-fashioned. Okay, it might be old-fashioned, but it works for me, so. I like the really precise application of the shadows, and then I feel comfortable blending them. This is going into the crease. Now one thing I don't do, but a lot of people do, is a lot of people put this darker shade a little bit in, maybe a third of the way on the outer lid. I don't do that. It's pretty. It gives kind of a gradation. You can then soften in the inner part with the white to lighten the blue. I don't do it because instead of doing that gradation of lighter, middle, darker, I prefer to keep the lid really light because it opens my eyes up and they just, in my opinion, pop more. They look a lot bigger. Not that they need to, but I just think it's just a lighter, less heavy look, makes your eyes look bigger. Just a personal thing. So, I bleed in this lower corner. I guess my eyes water a little. So I'm always double checking. And then the other thing I did, you can see, put it in the inside part of the crease and then blended it a lot. And how much you blend it is just, it just depends how dramatic a look you want. If you want a really dramatic look, not only can you put an eyeshadow primer, you can use a white base, like the NYX Mix Thick Pencil, and then you can really get the colors defined. I prefer them more blended, so this is how I do it. Now, this sparkly Aquamarine shade, which I just cannot wear in most ways, I take that. It actually works as a great highlighter with blues. It's actually an amazingly stunning shade for that. I'm putting it about a fifth of the way across my lower lash line, and it totally opens up the eyes. And then I put it just in the little inner corner here, and make sure to ring around that little defining area where my eye and skin meet. So this is actually one of the most dramatic parts of this particular eyeshadow quad, and as much as I don't like the color in general, it does an amazing thing in that respect. One other thing you can do with it, and I'm just going to do it on one eye, is you can put it right here too. It's a great highlight shade, and it's going to open up and take away any heaviness. So if you build up really dark colors on the lid, you can again use a color like this just to dot it on. Now I mixed in black. I'm not sure what brush I used, but I'm going to take this brush, and I'm going to dot a little bit of black in the outer crease. This is the one thing I don't remember exactly how much black I put in on that video, but it doesn't really matter. At nighttime you add more, daytime you add less. So the reason for adding the black, and again it can go in a gradation, so lighter, darker, darker, and then even darker. The reason why I added the black, ooh, that was probably too much, but this is this wonderful blendable shade. I just made a mess of that one, but the reason I added the black is that then it just looks less dramatically, you can see I kind of messed that one up a little bit, less dramatically blue. And to my original point, how ADD I am, I'm still not done, believe it or not. I really do this. It takes me this long when I do these types of looks. I think this looks too dark. I mix more white in. And here there's not enough. Mix more white in. And then I think that we need more of this shade right here. And so this is where those precise little brushes come in handy. So that's basically the look. Then I have mascara, and when I'm done, I'm actually going to put black on the lower waterline so you can see the difference of adding that, but I'm going to do the mascara first. Just do quick mascara. And this is the Urban Decay Perversion, just because it's what was nearby and what I just used for another video. Mascara. Then we're going to blend another time. Now this, at this point actually, sometimes I will take one of those bigger blending brushes and blend the eye, because looking at it, it looks like it could use a little good blending to soften the lines. And then also if you feel like you have too much blue on, you can soften the lines that way. So let's just take my blush brush, which I actually use. You should wait till the mascara dries, obviously, which I didn't do. But I do stuff like that all the time. Then if you want to put the black on the lower waterline, you're going to get even less of kind of that, wow, that's a lot of a blue look. I find if you put the black closer to your eye, you can get away with so many colors on your eyes, like the reds and stuff. If you put black lining your eye, you can put all kinds of reds all over your eye and you don't look like a zombie or like you've gotten a fight or a vampire or whatever. So anyway, that's the look I did for the video. Hope that helps. It is definitely one of my longer videos, but that's okay. It takes a while for me to do my makeup sometimes. Sometimes it's super fast and sometimes it takes longer. Mo lasted the entire time. Please subscribe on YouTube. And then I also have my book, Masks, which is about makeup and the masks we wear, which I've been putting chapters on YouTube up as well. And I've got the link to those, I think it's 11 chapters at this point, in the description to this video. Thanks.